I get about 10 minutes to tee up a few topics on water reliability in Orange County. I have some advice for you all. The WACO Planning Committee does hard work to set up the programs for this. My advice is that you attend those WACO Planning Committee meetings, because if you don't, you may end up in the position I'm in, being a presenter. Last WACO Planning Committee was quite interesting. I got pulled into the committee and the machine guns started going off, and they said, Carl, why don't you pull together a little presentation and get the group interested in water reliability planning in the county, and then work on putting together future panels on this. So my setup today is to do an introduction in this, kind of whet your appetite, no pun intended, and to get your input, because it'd be good. This room is full of the policy folks in the county, and so what is it that bothers you? What is it that keeps you up at night? And what should we be working on in Orange County? And it doesn't mean that we're not already working on it. Orange County has a rich history of being a leader in many areas, but it doesn't mean that we can't take a step back and do things better than we have been. I was reminded yesterday that the water managers in Southern California in 1990, when the last major drought hit, were not really as prepared as we are today. And Southern California is better prepared today to get through a drought we have. But the question is, what should we be doing in Orange County to be better prepared for future droughts and future events that impact us? So I didn't prepare the talk in a vacuum. I did poked a few folks and asked for some suggestions, and so put together a couple comments to get you all interested and to talk about a few things here. First of all, when we talk about water reliability planning in the county, this map shows a lot of colors and a lot of boundaries, and if you count them all up, there's about 32 entities in the county. And so when I talk about we or us, this is we and this is us. Water moves across all of those boundaries in the county. Not any one of those colored areas works by itself, and so one of the themes that you hear throughout my short introduction today is coordination and collaboration, because that's key to helping us work together and find more efficient ways to do what we need to do. So just a reminder that this is us, this is the Orange County water community, this is also sort of the WACO purview, so that's what we'll be talking about today. As I mentioned, the drought's a nice opportunity to take a step back and say, what can we do better? When we think about water reliability planning, it begs a few questions. How are we set? What is water reliability, and how would we measure it? How are we doing today? When you start thinking about it, you also realize that in Orange County, it's not necessarily all under our control. It depends on a lot of different things happening, local, regional, and statewide. So teed up the issue of reliability, what it is, how we manage it. Over the last 10 years or so, we've talked about water supply reliability in the county, and just for a standard definition, we seem to have glommed onto that there's two types of water supply reliability. One is on the left side of that chart. It's having the infrastructure, the ability to move water around, the ability to deal with, say, emergency types, and we've called that system reliability. You can think of that. On the right-hand chart, that is not the new proposed dam on the Santa Ana River that Mr. Nakasone is going to talk about later, but it's on the supply side, it's the wet stuff. Do we have the water to put in the system, and how will we get through droughts and hydrologic situations? And so those are the two. Now, if you develop a new project and it develops new source of supply, If that supply is local, then you get a system reliability benefit out of it, but there are other projects that are being done in the county for more system reliability. A good example of that one is the recent Baker treatment plant, where 5 agencies got together in the county and decided to build a treatment plant. It primarily treats met water, so why would you want another treatment plant treating water and sending it to South Orange County? And the concern is that when an earthquake happens, if it knocks out the Deemer plant or the pipelines, you have that source of supply continuing to flow into South Orange County, and so that's a good thing. It's a project that's up and moving into construction. Once again, from the standpoint of coordination and collaboration, the collective interest in this room is to serve the citizens of the county. The people of the county certainly move across all boundaries in the county, and the water that flows in the county moves across all the boundaries. When we start thinking about that, the local agencies that actually deliver the water to the end users are the closest, and you can say that all decision making is local because it's those agencies making decisions on how best to serve those customers. As they tee up those topics, they must consider where they are in the county. Each of the local agencies has a different risk profile. They have a different sources of supply available to them, and that drives that decision making. And not that that decision making is uniform. Each agency gets to make those decisions, and each agency gets to set the goals for the reliability in their service area, but it's not necessarily all under their control. It does depend on what's going on a regional basis and on a statewide basis. So we tried to demonstrate in this graphic that we're all interested in what is at the tap, but in order to look at the source and the reliability, you need to work back through the tap and see what influences stand between us and providing reliable supplies to the end users in the county, which is what our responsibility is. The WACO Planning Committee was interesting. As I got dragged into that, they started firing questions. What about this? What about this? What about this? And I took those questions and I went and prodded others about what's out there and what are the major issues affecting our water reliability in the county. And we can refer to this as our wheel of fortune or our wheel of challenge. And once again, I heard an interesting quote the other day. Not any one of these is our silver bullet. Even if you think about BDCP or the Met supplies, there is no silver bullet, but what we're looking for is the silver buckshot. It's probably going to be a lot of different things that are going to result in our reliability for the future. These are organized in a rather messy manner because it's a mixture of projects, it's a mixture of policies, and it's a mixture of other types of issues. And let me just touch on a few because they all are interrelated in some way. And it's interesting when I go around and talk to people about, well, if you were in charge of Orange County for a day, what would you do for our water supply? And in today's environment, a lot of people tell me almost instantaneously, well, I'd go tap the ocean and do ocean desalination. And so ocean and brackish desalination is one of those boxes. Doing those projects involves a lot of other components in there. It involves the met and imported supplies, and well, why does it involve that? Well, part of the way of integrating that water back into the system is getting that water into the met system and allowing it to be distributed around in the county. Orange County Water District groundwater basin, what are the interrelationships with that? Well, imported water supplies a portion of the replenishment for the groundwater basin. And so once again, when we look at the different boxes and the implications for those, they really are interrelated. And connecting another one of the boxes with respect to ocean desalination, one of the down in the weeds policy issues that we're concerned about is how will the supply from an ocean desalination plant be considered under Metropolitan's water supply allocation plan. Now, it's probably in this group you all haven't discussed it. It's not a daily topic of conversation at dinner, but it is part of that process, and so there are a lot of those types of issues that are embedded in these. With respect to BDCP, you may not know it, but you have a work group working on your behalf right now. There's about 5 or 10 volunteers from the water community that are working on comment letter back on BDCP, so that's something that's going on now. There are a lot of different opinions on whether that's going to be successful or not, and whether that's our silver bullet or part of our silver buckshot. Funding and willingness to pay. Once again, we represent the citizens in the county, and we always need to tie everything we're doing back to the cost and the cost of water and the service that's provided. So there's a whole lot of issues in here. Now, your job today is, which of these issues do you think are key? Which are the ones we're missing? Which are the ones you want to hear more about? And so that's the input I'm looking for. You can catch me after the meeting. You can catch me anytime. We have some time to tee up future presentations, but I'd really like to know what's bothering you, what's keeping you up at night, and what we need to focus on in the county, especially from the policy side of it. If you have a question, how come we never, or why shouldn't we, it'd be nice to tee those issues up. As far as what we do next on this, I think the vision of the WACO Planning Committee was that I would tee this up. We would get a panel of experts together and set up a series of future meetings for this group. I talked among a number of water industry reps, and one of the things that we do have in the county, we have an awful lot of smart people here. So a number of folks agreed that convening groups to work on the details of this, tee them up, bring them back to a group like this would be beneficial. And so I think that's the plan of attack. Once again, I'm trying to whet your appetite, stimulate your thinking. If you have any key issues you think we missed or you want to bring any up now, if we have time for that, happy to do that. But catch me afterwards, and we'll make sure that we get these issues teed up for you down the road.
Carl, one of the items that you just mentioned just a few minutes ago from the National Water Research Institute, someplace shouldn't you have a little small number up there for recycle direct water usage?
I have that captured once again in that Wheel of Fortune. Before I teed that up, I probably did that slide maybe 4 or 5 different ways, and I had a long laundry list, so I kept on breaking it down into something that was a little more digestible. So I captured that under recycling, but I think both indirect potable and direct potable reuse are definitely part of our future. I did talk to Jeff Mosier before I got up here to do this, and so that was one of the topics he mentioned that we should definitely be including in there. So once again, good question. Anything else we're missing or it's bothering you? Mary Eileen?
It doesn't bother me, but I know you do have the BDCP, but you don't have the bond up there. Where are you capturing that? Because I think there's an effort now to separate the BDCP from the water bond.
Right, I separated them. That was according to Tim Quinn yesterday, is that we should be separating those. My feeling is a little bit different on that, because whether you try to separate those two or not, they're going to be linked, and so no matter what you do. But I understand that, and I think that the whole statewide solution issue, and let me bring up another one besides BDCP, and it's one that keeps me up at night, is what are we going to do for California's future water policy with respect to the agricultural industry in the state? And it seems to me that there's a lot of water use in that. If you can tighten up a bit and do some things, there's a lot of coordination going on now, but that is a nightmare, and I haven't found anybody willing quite yet to take that on, other than I keep reading more and more articles on market transformations and allow water to be exchanged more readily throughout the state, especially during times of drought that we're in right now. Any other thoughts, comments? Here.
Carl, in the planning committee that came up with this, the principal focus is on things that we in Orange County can do and how we can be more effective by working together better. And I mean, that's the principal focus that the planning committee was looking at. I mean, we can't control agriculture in the Central Valley or other things, or the bond, but we can reoperate our system to be more efficient in Orange County, or we can build certain facilities that increase our reliability. And that's the principal focus, and that's where you should really direct the comments and suggestions and those things. I mean, each of us probably has our short list of things to do that are really important, that are not what we're doing today. So that's, I think, embodies where the planning committee was coming from.
Thanks for the comments. Question?
My comment kind of tags along with what Wayne just said. First of all, if you're going to have a Wheel of Fortune, we ought to have Vanna White here.
We will order her for next time.
I'll be here. Seriously for a second. There's a lot of different administrative adjustments and moving stuff around, take water here, stop water, use less water. Those are all good. When you come right down to it, there are two major functions, and they're just under the one thing that we put down the bottom, recycling water. Basically, you have the desalinization and you have the groundwater replenishment system, GWRS, which we've pioneered basically here in California. And I think there's a big difference there. The GWRS basically goes into Orange County Water District. They charge about $300, a little under $300 an acre foot. Desal, the last thing I saw was $1,600 and some odd dollars an acre foot. So I would think the biggest push would be to get people to accept this groundwater replenishment system throughout the state, because it can be done any place. It doesn't have to be done next to it.
Yeah, no, it's a good comment. What has been done in Orange County can be replicated in other locations through a series of, I think, alignment of the stars. Orange County was the first to do that and has been able to do it less expensive than it will be able to be done in a lot of other areas. I know that there's work going on in South Orange County right now in the San Juan groundwater basin, and some of the same questions are being asked down there. It's a much smaller basin, but can you do a similar type project to GWRS? And you all should be interested that one of the ways of expanding GWRS, and I just cleared this with Mike Marcus yesterday, is we're going to institute a high flow toilet replacement program so that we can generate more sewage in the county to be able to expand that program down the road.
I'm sure that will make the media locally. Thank you very much, Carl. It's an excellent primer on what's going on in Orange County. We'll look forward to additional future presentations. I personally have made some requests because one of the difficulties associated with these boards of directors and everything that we do is raising the common level of understanding among all of us over these different competing priorities for our time and the precious resources that the public entrusts us with. So our final speaker this morning is Herb Nakasone. Herb serves currently as the executive director of the Santa Ana River Flood Protection Agency, commonly known as SARFPA. Herb is a longtime resident of the city of Irvine and retired after many years of service to the county of Orange and is as the county's chief engineer and director of public works. He has a BS from the University of Hawaii, God bless you, and an MS from Long Beach State University. Here to give WACO a presentation on the role of SARFPA in Orange County, please give a warm welcome to Herb Nakasone. Mr. Nakasone, you have the floor, sir.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here this morning. It may seem strange to some to talk about flood control during a drought, but those of you who have been in the water business for a long time recognize that flood control and water conservation goes hand in hand, especially in Southern California, where we're trying to save all of the storm water that we possibly can. This morning, what I'd like to do is give you a brief background as to who SARFPA is, what we do. SARFPA, not to be confused with SAPA. Celeste's group, Santa Ana Watershed Project Authority. I know we get confused because we use so much acronyms. We are a joint powers agency of 17 cities. Those 17 cities are in the Santa Ana River floodplain in Orange County, along with several special districts, including the Water District and the Sanitation District, who are great partners in flood control, as I will cover later. What does SARFPA do? We're really a small organization. I'm the one and only employee. We try to communicate with our congressional delegation through our members. Now, this organization's been around a long time. It was formed in the 70s to help authorize the Santa Ana River Main Stem project. Some of you may know George Osborne. While he was chief engineer, he recognized the need to have the city support the project in Congress. And so during its authorization, we would go back to Washington and have city representatives testify before Congress and to get initial funding. But throughout the years, it's also been very helpful for the county. And part of the reason the county formed the group is to educate the city council members who were benefiting from the project, just to learn about it so they could communicate with their congressional representatives on a one-to-one basis. So I think we've been very successful because our members are generally elected council members. They need to learn about the project, and that's part of what we do to educate the city council people. So when they have personal contacts with our congressional delegation, they can mention and say, by the way, I'm from the city, for example, of Westminster. We need your help in the Santa Ana River project or the Westminster study to fund it. And a one-on-one contact is very helpful. And I didn't choose Westminster by chance. The city of Westminster recently was in Washington, and they did talk to Congressman Rohrbacher and Lowenthal and let them know that the Westminster study was a priority for them. And later on, I'll explain recent funding in the current federal budget that now has money for that study, but I'll cover that a little later. 17 cities. These are the 17 cities. All of these are in the Santa Ana River floodplain. They're the ones that benefit from the Santa Ana River Main Stem project. Currently, Kathy Green is our chair. She's from the Orange County Water District, and John Collins from the city of Fountain Valley. We meet 6 times a year, and it's a two-way street. The city council members who attend receive information on the project from county staff, and at the same time, they have information that they can use to communicate with their congressional representatives. Recently, I know Kathy, John, and myself met with Congressman Rohrbacher, whose district receives a lot of the benefits from both the Santa Ana River project and the Westminster study, which I will cover here shortly. These are the current interests that SARFPA has. The Westminster study, which is being done by the Corps, the local sponsor being the Orange County Flood Control District, along with the Santa Ana River Main Stem, which you all know about, and I'll cover that last to give you an idea what the status is. By the way, I need to give credit to county staff. All of these slides that will be coming up here are slides prepared by the county. And as you know, the Orange County Flood Control District is the local sponsor for both of these projects. And so the county funds a lot of the projects that are part of the Santa Ana River Main Stem. And I'll cover a little bit later about how that cost split is arranged. Now, this is the Westminster watershed study. This is the study boundary. And you may ask, why? What's so important about this area? Well, unfortunately, when the Santa Ana River Main Stem project was initiated, there was an underlying floodplain that was not identified with the Santa Ana River Main Stem Project. The Santa Ana project removed the floodplain resulting from the overflow of the Santa Ana River, but it did not, and what it did not do, and a lot of it is because we didn't really know that we had an underlying floodplain. But this part of the county, which is what we call an alluvial floodplain, what that means is it does not have any defined drainage course. All of these facilities that you see here were man-made, accomplished by the county through a bond program in the 60s and 70s, and these are all man-made facilities to drain the western part of Orange County. Well, when these were constructed, we did not have the National Flood Insurance Program, which now requires flood control facilities to provide a 100-year level of protection. Otherwise, flood insurance is required. So as a result, these were built to the 25-year standard. It was a standard that the Flood Control District decided to provide flood protection for, feeling that this was a lot of flood protection in those times. Well, what happened after the Santa Ana River project was partly completed and Orange County was removed, the Santa Ana floodplain was removed from Orange County. Lo and behold, FEMA came back and said, that's fine and good that you worked on the Santa Ana River and removed the floodplain, but you have underlying floodplains resulting from local drainage. And these are the local drainage facilities that do not have a 100-year flood protection. And so as a result, I know this is maybe a difficult slide to recognize, but there's a dark blue shaded area. Let me go up to the... That is the current floodplain where people pay flood insurance. This has been on for a long time, and it caught a lot of people by surprise, but it still is on today, and that is one of the things that SARFPA is pushing for, to get funding eventually for construction of facilities to remove that floodplain. Now, just to give you an idea, this watershed study that's currently underway is by the Army Corps of Engineers. The Orange County Flood Control District pays 50% of the cost. Now, the third bulletin, $752,000 needed. If you looked at the newspaper yesterday in the Register, lo and behold, we got some money in the federal budget for this project. So it's welcome news, and I think part of it is the result of some of our work in getting to our congressional delegation, also meeting with the Army Corps and telling them that, you know, we really need this, and going back and repeating it often enough, I think sometimes it catches. So we're fortunate that we got some funding, and so that what that means is that the study will continue. Now, why is SARFPA and the city so interested in it? This particular slide gives you an idea of what residents in that area of Orange County pay in flood insurance. $17 million a year. Over 15,000 policyholders. That averages over $1,000 a year in flood insurance premiums. So obviously city council people hear from their constituents, and one of the reasons why there's so much interest in this area. What do we do? Like I mentioned earlier, by educating the city council people, and as you know, city council people, not to say they come and go, but there is a large number of city council people that, you know, over what I talk about time, keeping in mind this organization's been in place for over 30 years, and so educating new councilmen and new councilwomen is part of our goal, and I think it's helped by educating people about the need for especially the Westminster study. Now, one of the things that the local flood control district is doing is they continue to build improvements to remove that floodplain. Just because the Corps is doing the study doesn't necessarily mean the local county flood control district is sitting on its hands. It's constantly trying to improve the channel This is the East Garden Grove Wintersburg channel, the main channel that is the cause of the floodplain in this part of the county. This is what it looks like down in Huntington Beach. These types of projects will continue. Recently, the Hasta Basin was completed, which is the upper part of the basin, and so the combination of working downstream and upstream, eventually, I think if the Corps takes as long as they do nowadays to get projects started, the county may complete the project before the Corps could even fund it. But what that means, however, is that the county has to spend a lot of its money in one area, and other areas may not receive as much protection as they would like. Now, the project that's probably of interest to most of you, because the Santa Ana River is the source of water, the groundwater, and it certainly is a project that has been on the books for a long time. So I thought I'd give you a current status of where the project is. This is the water. This is the watershed of the Santa Ana River. It starts at the coast in Newport Beach and extends all the way up to Big Bear and past the Cone past. So it's one of the largest watersheds in California that requires flood protection. If you look at it carefully, you can see that most of the watershed is not in Orange County, but Orange County is the recipient of most of the flows, and so this project is a tri-county project. The local sponsors are not only the Orange County Flood Control District, but the Riverside and San Bernardino Flood Control Districts. The county, however, of Orange receives 90% of the benefits, so 90% of the cost is shared by, contributed by Orange County. I show you this slide because this is currently where most or not all of the money that is being spent on the river is currently located. One of the projects that is a major facility in the Santa Ana River project is the Santa Ana River Interceptor, Santa Ana River Interceptor. It's a sewer line that conveys brine, salt waste from Riverside and San Bernardino County. Now you may ask, why is a flood control district involved in constructing a sewer line? Well, the agreement with the Army Corps that the flood control district has is that it's responsible for relocating all utilities, and the Sari line is part of a utility that needed to be relocated. Initially, it was not identified as requiring to be relocated, but after storms over several years, it was discovered that the Sari line was being exposed. Now, the Sari line belongs or will be owned by the Orange County Sanitation District. So in order to accelerate the construction, the county and the San District and SAPA got together and decided to fund this project ahead of when the county could do it with its own money. So a lot of the funding that for the Sari line came from the Orange County Sanitation District. So this particular project, as some of you know, is a joint project between the county and the San District and SAPA. Funding comes from SAPA and the San District, which the county then needs to repay when it receives money from the state through a subvention program, which is a different program. But part of this funding comes from the state through the what the state calls a subvention program. In any case, this is a major feature. It's costing over $40 million to construct. One of the key features of this project in the Santa Ana Canyon. This is just an example of constructing the Sari line. It's mostly an underground facility that had to be constructed by tunneling. What I show here are the tunneling equipment. The slide on the left is like a big jack that jacks the the line underground, and the far right shows the type of pipe that's being pushed underground. This is the drill head or the cutting edge of the underground tunneling mechanism. The diameter of the pipe is 54 inches. Of course, the cutting head is a little bit larger than that, probably 2 feet larger than 54 inches. But this is what was used to construct the tunnels. This is again a picture of the machine that's used to cut the tunnel, and on the right side is the pipe that's installed underground. Now, this is not the pipe that carries the effluent. This is the tunnel that contains the effluent pipe. Inside of this pipe, they have a polyethylene type pipe that I'll show you here in a little bit that's laying on the ground there. That's what's pushed into the tunnel after the tunnel is constructed. And this is a metering station that the Orange County Sanitation District requested. Now back to Reach 9, where all of the money is being spent by the Army Corps. This is the type of construction that's currently underway in the Santa Ana River Canyon. These are levee protection features, rock riprap type improvements that are used to protect the 91 freeway here. And now before I get to this slide, let me just conclude on the construction. Again, in the paper, if you recall, some of you who have read the paper, I think the Army Corps will be receiving funding in the upcoming President's budget in the neighborhood of $37.3 million. That money will be spent in that canyon area to do levee protection, and so that's a welcoming surprise. Well, maybe I shouldn't say surprise. The Corps has been funding this project. 37 million may seem a lot to some of you, but really it provides funding for maybe one, maybe two projects, and there's a lot more improvements that are needed in the canyon. The question is, why is the canyon so important, and why is the SARI line needed? Those of you who are in the water business recognize, especially the Orange County Water District, that the sooner we can get the Santa Ana River project below Prado Dam done, the more water we can conserve. And why is that? Prado Dam, the more water we can hold behind Prado Dam, the more water we can conserve during storm events. The more water we can hold below at Prado, the more water we can percolate into the groundwater. Up until about a year ago, when the SARI line was not completed, the Corps could not release more than 5,000 CFS from Prado Dam. What that meant is that it had to release water a lot sooner than they needed to, which meant that they could not store, or I shouldn't say they could not, they felt that their policy did not allow them to conserve water behind Prado Dam. With the completion of the SARI line and these improvements, the Corps can now release up to 30,000 CFS, 6 times more water, which means that they could hold more water back behind Prado Dam during storm events and use that storage water for water percolation in Orange County. So for those of us who are in flood control and water conservation, getting those improvements below Prado Dam completed as soon as we could as a key in allowing the water district. By the way, the paper also said that the water district is having a project to do a study at Prado, and that study is meant to help the water district conserve more water at Prado. So the sooner that study gets done, the sooner we can conserve more water behind Prado. So that's why it's so important for us to get the project at Prado done. Now, just further background, part of the local responsibility is to purchase properties behind Prado Dam. After completing improvements below Prado, the next phase would be to raise the spillway, which would then eventually allow maximum storage behind Prado. This is a poor map. I'm sorry I couldn't get anything better, but it shows the properties that the county owns and the property it still needs to acquire. And this is a summary of what it currently owns and what it still needs to acquire. So the county still needs to acquire a lot of properties behind Prado Dam. It is working on a program to allow developers to develop as many of the lands that they own behind Prado by what is called cut and fill type arrangement, where they excavate from Prado, use that excavation to fill up land to bring it above the floodplain elevation to allow development to occur. So it's a partnership that the county is working with the developers who own land behind Prado to reduce the number of acreage that needs to be acquired. So this is currently a win-win situation for both parties. This is a picture of the gate structure at Prado Dam. And what the water district would like to do is raise what we call the debris pool, store more water behind Prado, and allow this gate structure to release more water and to keep it from having to release the water sooner rather than later. So with that, as you know, these benefits are quite obvious to most of you here today. So I hope I did not take too long to provide you a briefing. I understand you all have a busy schedule. So with that, I'll open it up to questions. Yes, sir.
The article you cite, as I remember, it summed up to $84 million if you put all the money together there.
That's correct. Right. Yeah, what that means is that the money that's currently in this year's budget, the 2014, added with the amount that's added in the 2015 amounts to over $80 million.
One other thing, the silt control, that's a problem in the upper end of the Santa Ana Basin.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Does this help you, or the flow, or is it at odds with it?
No, if you can remove the silt and allow more storage, that's always a benefit. And
You could put that behind the dam. There's a sluicing problem, isn't there?
there is a sluicing problem, and I think if there's a way to sluice that sediment through the dam, that'll increase the storage capacity.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
In a perfect world with all of the land acquisitions,
Mhm.
obviously the flood control down the river, what's the maximum storage potential for Prado in that area, say 30 years from now or whenever all that's happened?
I don't know the exact numbers for it, but I know the Water District is working with the Army Corps to increase the amount of storage it could have after a storm event. Maybe Mike Marcus and some of the staff here would have a better feel for what their goals are as far as storage capacity. But if you think about a dam having the ability to hold back water, there's a lot of potential for storage if you can work out a program for, say, weather forecasting, where you could hold all of the water back. For example, this past storm, after the storm, the weather people say we're not going to have a rain for maybe 3 to 4 weeks. And so if you had a deluge, a large storm, you could keep all of the water there. Whereas now the Corps has to release some of that water because of their operating procedures. And so I think the Water District is trying to work out a system where they could hold back more of that water and release it over time, especially if there's no storms on the horizon expected. It probably doesn't answer your question specifically.
That's all right. I figured it would be a variable number, but it's just curious for the future. We can manage in that area. Thank you.
Yeah.
496 and then that way they can release it more slowly than we divert it into our recharge basins now.
Excuse me. Let me have Pierre's been having his hand up. Go ahead, Pierre.
I'll defer.
Hey, sorry. Herb is obviously one of the first of the presenters on what we can do differently, to increase the reliable water supply in the county. And because once we get this project done, you know, we have the ability to capture a lot of water that currently goes to the ocean. So, Herb, I'm going to put you on the spot and ask for some figures here to kind of follow up on the question. Is the dam now, the new project, when they raise the spillway, how much additional storage is there behind Prado?
You mean flood control storage?
No, I'm talking about the area that, you know, to the spillway.
Well, there's 29 feet is what the...
Okay, so how many acre feet, you know, what's the volume of the storage in the original reservoir with the current spillway, and what is it when you put the spillway in? How many 1,000 or 100,000 acre feet of additional storage are you putting in?
Well, you're right. That's to be honest, I don't know what that is, but I can tell you that it's a lot more than what we have today. But I don't know exactly what amount of acre feet of storage that we have behind with the new dam.
But, and I guess the point is, you know, there is a theoretical amount of water that can be sunk in the Orange County downriver.
Mm-hmm.
But the additional storage that you're putting in with when you get the spillway up is more than enough to, you know, equate to the amount of maximum, you know, sinking capacity in the Orange County Basin.
Well, to give you an idea, I think currently, and Mike might be able to update the information, but I think you capture about 1,000 CFS. That's the maximum that you can capture, a little over 1,000 CFS per day, or 1,000 CFS of flow. So if you think about the Corps releasing 5,000 CFS currently, if you could reduce that flow to 1,000 CFS rather than having the Corps release 5,000 CFS, that means you're gaining 4,000 CFS of flow every second. And I don't know what that amounts to in acre feet, but it certainly is a lot more water that I know the Orange County Water District groundwater could probably accept.
So easily you could get another 30,000 acre feet of water into the Orange County Basin, so it's a new source of, potential new source of...
It certainly is a new source of water, and that's why it's so important to be able to capture as much of that storm water behind the dam as possible. Yes, John? Excuse me, John, let me... Go ahead.
These improvements would reduce the flood risk, is that correct?
That's correct. Well, that's the primary purpose, yes.
Primary purpose. And I know that the House just passed their version of the flood insurance bill. And from what information I have, most of our Republican congressmen in Orange County voted against that insurance bill. Rohrabacher, Mesa, and Royce. Do you know their reasons for voting against it? Are you privy to that?
Not exactly. I don't know exactly what the bill says, but the bottom line is that the insurance premium will increase, and I think there's a thought in FEMA to increase the level of protection required for flood insurance from over 100 years. So what that means is that if let's say the flood protection requirement is now 200 years, then a lot more people would be required to pay flood insurance, and that's part of the discussion that's going on in Congress to not increase the level of protection, because increasing the level of protection required would increase well, not only increase the premiums, bring in a lot more people into the program requiring to purchase flood insurance.
Thank you.
John?
I'm not going to ask you what damn question. But is there a target here that when the Withersburg-Westminster Channel will be finished and the dam situation, the Surrey line rebuilding and stuff, is there a target date here of maybe when this will be all completed?
You know, when I worked at the county, I thought this project would be done by the time I retired, and that was 7 years ago. I know the Corps has a target date, but I'm very pessimistic that they can receive, in 10 years that they can do it. I think if we can get the Santa Ana River project done in 10 years, including the Westminster, would be fortunate. That's why I think part of SOFPA's, our organization's requirement is to push the county to continue making improvements on the Westminster study, and also to try and purchase as much of the property behind Prado so that it could force the Corps to accelerate their effort.
Maybe if we hired Deanna White to go to Washington.
Yes, Wayne?
I know there's no agency up in the Riverside or San Bernardino that does this similar work. Is there anybody at all leaning forward to the use of the Three Oaks Dam for water conservation under the same principle of Prado?
Yes, they are. Some of you may know, San Bernardino Municipal Water District is pretty aggressive in San Bernardino County. And when the dam was built, they put in approximately $2 million to make improvements at Seven Oaks Dam to allow for future water conservation at the dam. So in the long term, there is a goal of the Inland Empire water districts to capture as much water at Seven Oaks like we do at Prado. Now, currently, the way the system works is the Corps tries to capture all of the water at Seven Oaks Dam and release it only if Prado Dam cannot retain more water. So, and a lot of that water then is released over time and very slowly, because the water districts and the water people in San Bernardino County do not have as aggressive they do have a groundwater recharge program, but it's not as aggressive as Orange County. And some of the water districts, like the Redlands Water District, used to use the water directly from the Santa Ana River at Seven Oaks for their water treatment system without any filtering, because the water was clean before the dam was built. But we found out that what happens is when you store water at Seven Oaks Dam, it gets very milky. And so now it takes a lot longer to settle that silt out of the water so they can use it directly. So they have a problem there, and so they're trying to figure out a better way to filter the water from storms so they can use it sooner. So there are programs up there that the water districts up in San Bernardino County are working on, but not as aggressive a groundwater program as we have here. Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your attendance this morning. The WACO committee will now stand adjourned to the next regularly scheduled meeting of Friday, April 4th. No, that's the WACO planning meeting, to Tuesday, March 18th. Thank you very much.